you ever had a dreams that you had?
Welcome, beautiful souls, to another transformative episode of Big Inner Child Energy Podcast with your host, licensed therapist and entrepreneur strategist, Micah Miller. Today, we embark on a journey deep into the realms of our inner child, exploring stories that shape our adult lives. Get ready for candid conversations, unfiltered insights, and actionable strategies to fuel your personal and professional growth. Let's laugh, learn, and embrace the boundless energy of our inner child together. This is Big Inner Child Energy, where healing meets humor and transformation intertwines with authenticity. Welcome to your playground of success.
Hello, incredible souls, and welcome back to Big Inner Child Energy, the podcast where we not only embrace the magic of our inner child, but also uncover the stories of successful individuals, exploring how their childhood experiences paved the way for their remarkable journeys. I'm your host, Micah Miller, and I am thrilled to dive into another inspiring episode with you. Before we jump into today's episode and this incredible conversation, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude for each and every one of you. Your support and your engagement mean the world to me, and I am so honored to have you as part of our growing community. If you're new here, welcome to the playground. Now, without further ado, let's jump into today's episode of Big Inner Child Energy. Only an entrepreneur, therapist, author, and screenwriter, but also a childhood friend. DJ Burr is a licensed psychotherapist specializing in sexual addiction, codependency, and trauma. As a person in long-term recovery from various addictions and a survivor of dysfunctional childhood, DJ dedicates his practice to helping those on their path to recovery and wholeness. He believes that healing those parts of our inner children who didn't get enough of what they needed to thrive is essential in breaking through pain, shame, and guilt. DJ, welcome to the playground.
Amen. I'm welcome. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so happy that you're here. My goodness, middle school, the insanity. We were just talking about how I hadn't really seen you or had conversations or laid eyes on you for real since 8th grade. So tell us a little bit about kind of like your journey. How'd you get here?
Oh my goodness. I mean, it has been a journey for sure. And I can't believe it's been so long. Like you and I have stayed in contact like on social media over the
Yeah.
years, but it's like we haven't been in the same space in like over a decade, right?
Right. 'Cause
And-
even graduation, we ended up in the same master's program, had no idea you were there until we were graduating.
Right, because we were in these different cohorts. Like we weren't
Right.
even in the same classes. So that's crazy. But I'm so glad that we've been connected. And I'm so like thankful that I've gotten to see like you thrive
Yeah, thank you.
in your practice and all of the things that you do, because you're the entrepreneur too, right? We talk. And so I'm blessed that, we came out of similar, places. Like we went to middle school together. We were in the same, like, city growing up, right?
Mhm.
And I probably encountered some of the same things I did. But here we are.
And it really was middle school, right? Because I came from from Washington, D.C., by way of Fairfax, Virginia, and moved here in 6th grade, right? And so when I got here, it was a world of difference for me growing up in Fairfax to, coming to Georgia. And so, bullying and, all those different things really kind of held me back for a very long time. I didn't realize how it hindered a lot of my success until I started healing that little middle school girl. So for you, what was middle school like for you? And how did that kind of like shape who you are today?
Oh, it was like the worst. When they talk about like middle school and high school being really hard, like it's like legit, like
Yeah.
hard. I mean, middle school for me was very chaotic.
Yeah.
I came out of the closet. Well, really, I was forced out of the closet early on. So
Yeah.
beginning of middle school and then right into high school. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking like I was like 15.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was like the worst. Like home life was horrible. I had completely dysfunctional family
Mhm.
system, alcoholism, domestic violence, poverty. Like we grew up
Mhm.
in projects, shuffled from family member to family member. Like I have lived with every family member, throughout my, school years.
Yeah.
I might start like, for example, in middle school, I was like in 4 different homes.
when I read your story, one of your books, I was reading in like the bio and reading your story, and then I listened to a podcast when you started doing podcasts. And there were so many things I missed. Obviously I'm a child too, but there were so many warning signs as a therapist now that I can look back and say, I missed every sign, that there could be of a child that was in a situation or abused or any of those situations. I remember, and this is, I don't even know if you even recognize this, but there was that jacket, that comfort that you always wore was that jacket. And I was just like, oh my God, how did we miss that? Tell us a little bit about kind of like, how were you able to even be, because you were such a sweet person. You were so kind. But this is the funny thing part. You were so soft spoken, but you were so funny. How did you manage all of that you were going through, but still end up being such a good person and friend, just even in middle school when everyone's trying to find who they are?
Well, I'll tell you this. I believed at the time that it was my job to take care of other people.
Mm,
Uh, I believe that I was raised to do that. That's what I did most of the day throughout my life. And so when I came to school, it was the same deal. So it was about taking care of my friends, right?
yeah,
Making sure I had what they needed, right? Walking a friend to the
yeah,
classroom,
you did
to
that.
going to lunch. If someone was sitting by themselves, it was like, nope, I'm going to sit with this person, right?
Yeah,
Make phone calls, be on the phone all kind of times of day and night, checking in with people, listening to the phone, to the cries on the other end because other people had stuff going on. My
yeah.
stuff that bad, right? And so it's like that's what I did. I didn't even realize I was that funny in school, but thanks for saying that.
It was like that soft spoken, like, not like shade, but only us in the circle would talk. Only us in your circle would know. No one
Right.
outside would know, but we knew because you at least got a little bit comfortable with us. But I agree, you were the kid that would walk people to class. You were the person that people could sit and talk with. Like, so I absolutely agree with that. Audience, everybody that was DJ for sure. But as far as, your home life and that, no one knew that. And I don't know if you told me by that, but nobody knew any of that.
Well, like you said earlier, we were all kids. So
Yeah,
some people knew for sure.
yeah,
You just told. Like I just had the conversations about
yeah.
I got hit or yes, I saw my mom get hit.
Mhm,
But as kids, it's like, well, what do you do with that? And some of the adults knew too, but it was like you didn't get in anybody's business. That was kind of the environment that it was when I was growing up in the neighborhood and stuff. It's like you just didn't
mhm.
get in people's business, right? You kept it in the family. But it was so very traumatic for me knowing that other people knew what was going on in my house. I always tell the story about how, like, I used to have to call the cops on my stepdad, like,
Yeah,
all the time. And I don't know if you remember, like, the Lemon Street,
yeah,
projects, right?
yeah.
So I lived there, and
Mhm,
then on either side of that were, like, homes.
yeah,
Great-grandparents lived on one side, and, like, a mile up the street, my grandmother lived on the other side, and they had police scanners. So when I would call 911, they would hear it on the scanner, and they would call, "What's going on?" Right? So, like, stuff in the house would like, everybody knew it before you even realized it,
wow.
right? Why were we kept in this dysfunction? Weren't we taken out of that dysfunction? Why weren't the teachers who knew about the chaos, why didn't they say and or do something, right?
Yes, yes.
That bad.
Obviously, that creates that inner child wound for sure, and there's a huge trust wound, right? So how did that start showing up in your adulthood? Like that trust wound, that abandonment. I mean, you had all the wounds, really, right?
Oh, I had all the wounds and,
Yeah,
I think as you said that you've read my book, the biggest wound I think for me it was that all of that left me set up to be abused and molested
yeah.
and groomed for a sexual relationship with a neighbor person.
Mhm.
For years. And that sent me on this spiral of trying to fill those gaping holes, like
Yeah,
in my soul, right? With anything that I could fit into it, whether
yeah.
that was food, sex, alcohol, video games, relationships, whatever. And that set me up for a good decade of pain,
Wow.
and all of that, even through all of that mess, I was still trying to figure out how to take care of myself.
Yeah,
So I went to grad school,
yeah,
right? I excelled in school, like
yeah.
Yeah, undergrad, went to grad school, I moved to Seattle. I started a practice, but I was still stuck in the disease of addiction and trauma.
Speaks to just even how societal conditioning just operates. It's like we were all in honors program. We just a group of little black kids in the advanced classes in honors, in middle school. And, it's like school, high school, college, master's, career, family, children. Like you did everything all while dealing with addiction and compulsions and all these different things that you struggled with.
Right. Because I knew that I had a feeling that I needed to be doing something different. And so I
Mhm.
would take opportunities as they came, but I couldn't let go of what was familiar. I spent so much of my life stuck in that chaos. That was the norm. It was completely normalized. Where I would try to take a step, I went 10 back, right? Until it got to the point where I was just like, I wanted to give up.
Mm.
And that's what brought me to the brink. It was just like, "Oh, I don't know what to do."
So what age
So
was that? Was that like after grad school? Was that when was that?
oh, yeah, that was 30.
Really? Because even I
Yeah,
mean, I always brag on you because it was like, grad school, they didn't tell us shit in grad
no,
school for real. Let's just be clear, let's be clear. And so, when I saw you at graduation, you're like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, "Let's link up." "Oh, well, I'm on my way to Seattle." They're like, "I'm getting ready to open my practice and da 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 da." And I'm like, "What? What?" Right? And so you've always been so ambitious and you've been go, 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 go. So to hear this is the first time I'm hearing this, that even at 30, you still didn't feel like enough and you felt empty.
no, I didn't feel like enough. I was in a marriage when at grad school, like,
Yeah.
my husband at the time was there, and it was very traumatic, dramatic, addictive relationship, right? It very much mirrored my early childhood experience.
Mm.
And he and I got actually left graduation, got in the U-Haul, like,
I
literally.
remember you were like, I'm trying to link up with you after because I hadn't seen you since 8th grade. And you're like, I'm getting ready to go to Seattle. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I was
Literally
so
in the
shocked, like, oh my
parking lot.
gosh.
Yeah, it was, like, literally in the parking lot, and we drove. It took us, like, 4 days to get to Washington, and we drove in separate vehicles.
Wow.
So, I'm in the U-Haul, and he's in the
Mhm.
car. And I tell you this, we argued the entire way across the country.
4 days. Oh my God.
In different cars. Like, we're on the phone, like, arguing about whatever, right? Because it
Yeah.
was so chaotic.
Right.
So, bringing that energy to Washington.
Hmm.
And then when I got to Washington, I was like we got to Washington in October, and it was right before my birthday, and I said, "I cannot go into another year like this." And I said, "I'm out."
Yeah.
We just pulled up, like,
Yeah.
literally in
Yeah.
Washington, and I was like, "We just argued for 4 days in separate cars, 3,000 miles. Are you nuts? I'm not doing this anymore." So here we are in this little bitty ass apartment in Washington, don't know anybody,
Right.
and we're like, "Well, we're done." Ain't having anywhere to go. So we stayed stuck for just a little bit, and
Yeah.
then I left and got in my own place. I got a
Mm.
job in community mental health, and, I started taking some steps to take care of myself,
Mhm.
but I couldn't let it go, so I got into another dysfunctional relationship. So that, in Georgia, weren't legally married, right?
Yeah.
And so that relationship ended, and then I got into a new one,
Mhm.
got married again.
Again, did it again.
Again, like a year after, like,
Yeah.
got met somebody, he was like, "Oh, you're all that," "and I believe
Mhm.
you, I trust in you, I see this vision that you have for a practice, and I'm gonna help you." So I was like, "What?"
But see,
That
even going back to middle school, I'm just thinking about that jacket. Like we're talking about security has always been so major for you. So it's like when people provide you with that security, I could see, you putting on that jacket.
right, and I felt really secure. I
Yeah.
felt, "Wow, so this person really supports me, and they're believing in me, and they're like, 'Look, you put in the sweat equity, and I'll put in some money.'" I had to figure all that out, right? I didn't know anything about business, and so that's what I did. So I did my community mental health job, and I built my private practice with the help of my, fiance slash, soon to be husband slash business owner, co-owner, right? And that was a shit show.
Mm,
It just absolutely why? Because alcoholic. And then, the story I got was like, "No, this is like I'm not an alcoholic. This is normal,
yeah,
to drink every night, have some wine every night." Well, I grew up in an alcoholic family. You just didn't have wine. It had knock down, drag out,
right.
fall asleep on the floor, butt naked, walking in the house seeing your stepdad laid out drunk. So I was like, "Well, maybe this is okay." So
Mm,
I started having some wine, and then he would go to Costco and get ca cases of wine, and then it was a bottle a night, and then I'm drinking, right?
mm,
So I didn't know I was an alcoholic.
mm.
I was, right? Of course I was
And
gonna
then
deal
TV
with
doesn't help because everybody's having a bottle of some wine at night, and you're watching all types of shows, and that's what they're doing. So it's like society didn't help either.
right, right, and so I bought into the story he was selling, and then next thing I know, we're drinking 2, 3 a night, and I'm working 3 jobs, right? And I told people what I was doing, even in the field, even in the work, right, with coworkers. People knew what was happening. They knew that he was abusive. They knew that I was drinking. They knew that I and both of us were engaging in compulsive, like, sexual behavior. And for, like, the people around me, it was like listening to a soap opera.
One thing that is so important, and I always talk to coaching clients about like our childhood wounds and the trust issue, that doesn't help you in business. So to be around people hearing about your dysfunction and actually just this pain, really, because you got to hear that if you're a therapist and you're around therapists, you hear the pain and
Okay.
still not do anything. Your ability to really trust and grow your business had to have been affected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Yes, I was taking some healthy risk in exploring what it was like to run a business and became
Hmm.
very successful at that. But I was so sick. I mean, I wish someone had taken me by the hand and took me into the rehab, right?
Mm.
Because I needed it. I needed it. It was so bad. And like I said, people around me it was like a joke. It was like, what's the tea? You know?
And I know just from the outside, you're always smiling, you're always bright, you're always bubbly, but it's like, take me seriously.
Right. Right. And, the relationship was very abusive
Mhm.
and I was hurt like really bad.
Yeah.
And I said to him, he beat me really bad in the car. And the next day he woke up, was like, "Hey, how's it going? What? Hold on. You just beat me in the
Right.
car,
Right.
right? This is not happening." And then I went to therapy and the therapist was like, "Well, you could talk to him about going to rehab." So I got him in the rehab
Mhm.
and I spiraled out even more because why? Because my codependency was run amok.
Right. That
It
security, right? Quote unquote security was in rehab. So you were alive.
right. What do I do to take care of myself?
Right.
Right. I don't know how to function without this person here. And the
Mhm.
thing, you didn't go to inpatient, he went to outpatient. So he was
Mhm.
all gone, but he would come home late. And I was so insecure. I started engaging in all kinds of other extramarital, like, I
Mhm.
mean, permission,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
had like a relationship, but it was so ugly. It was so
Mm.
to the point where I just started risking my own safety.
Wow.
And then I was like, I was like, I don't want to live.
Mm.
Can't live like this. And that was the wake up.
You've been looking for safety and security your whole life.
Whole life, and I was tired. I was tired, but there was still that part of me, that inner child, that inner voice,
Yes.
don't give up. Yes, and honestly, I also believe it's a higher power.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in a religious family, but I wasn't religious,
Mhm.
but like more of a spiritual person,
Yeah.
because I 12-step recovery work. But I
Mhm.
kept hearing like, "Don't give up." So I he was doing whatever he was doing, and then a friend took me to a 12-step meeting.
So what parts have you had to heal, to really get to this place now where you're so transparent, you're so open, you're helping others through their battles, you're talking, you're speaking, you're writing books and screenplays and all that. What did it take?
I had to go back and talk to that little kid,
Hmm.
at 4 or 5-year-old that started witnessing that abuse, and I had to start talking about that.
Yeah.
I had to go into therapy. I had to really process that, and so there was healing around that
Mm.
part. There was healing around the part of being I had to it wasn't until I got into the rooms of recovery that I realized that I was molested because I was a teenager when that
Mhm.
happened. But up here, intellectually, it was like, no, I was an adult making an adult decision and I had a relationship.
Mm.
Girl does not have a relationship with a 40-year-old.
No, not at all.
Not at all, anywhere. I don't care
Mm-mm.
anybody's. That's just not it.
Mm-mm.
So I had to come to acceptance that that happened, and then I
Wow.
tell about that happening, and I had to confront that person,
Good for you.
right? So that all had to be done,
Yeah.
but I wasn't able to do it until I got sober. I had to have clarity, right? So once I started getting clarity from, no alcohol, no compulsive sex, no spending, no debting, no gambling, all the things, I couldn't do anything. But once
Yeah.
I did, I was able to start clearing a path and say, okay, I'm gonna go down this path this week, go down this other the next week, right? And I've been in recovery now approaching 12 years. I have over 11 years sober.
That's
Um,
amazing.
I'm still having to go back and check on those
Yeah.
kids. You still gotta go back and check on the kids, right?
That's what I always try to just emphasize. Like, you don't heal your inner child, and that's it. I don't believe in healed ED. I don't believe in that. I'm a healing ing, right? And you also got to bring them with you. Like you can't leave them behind either. That's part of the problem.
Right. Exactly. So I'm still in a process of
Yeah.
healing, working with my inner children and getting to know them and understanding like what their needs are, right?
Yes.
And it's so interesting you mentioned like the jacket, the coat, right?
Yes.
I'm always like in some kind of coat or something. I didn't even know that until you said that.
Yeah.
Right.
Working with kids now, it's like I look back on, that time period and it was like what I remember about certain people in our friend group, right? It's like, I remember he was soft spoken, he was funny, but if you knew him, he was really funny, really sweet, but he always wore that jacket, that blue jacket. Was it blue, gray, blue? Like navy blue, dark blue? I think it was blue. That jacket. He always wore that jacket. And it was like, oh my gosh. As a therapist now, I'm like, that was his safety blanket. That was his comfort. That was his consistency. That was what he needed for just like, almost like someone like how kids wear like have those weighted blankets. It's almost like your weighted blanket in some way. And so I always just remember that. And I didn't even click until that first book.
Wow. That's amazing. You should see how many coats I have.
Yeah. But I don't think it's anything, and I think that's part of the thing is like the awareness. That's all you need is the awareness. But it's also like I'm not saying don't ever wear a jacket again because that was what little DJ needed. So it's like if jackets are something that you still find comfort in, it's like okay, I know where this stems from, but I may not wear the same jacket every day, but I'm gonna have a plethora of jackets every day because this is where my comfort stemmed from when I was 4. You know?
Appreciate that feedback is absolutely. I mean, before we got on this interview, like I had a sweater on, I took it off. It was a Christmas sweater. I was like, well, I don't know when this is gonna air.
Yeah.
Like here on. She might air this in the summer. I don't
Right.
know.
We don't
Yeah.
know.
I, you know. And so I was like, well, let me do something different. So yeah, that's so interesting to hear that back. But I am my comfort. My higher power is
Yeah.
my comfort.
Yeah.
And now I get to ask for what I need from people
Mm.
available. And if you're not available, I ain't asking you shit.
Yeah. Yeah. You got boundaries now.
I got bound, honey. Let me tell you, family does not necessarily like the boundaries,
They're not
but
gonna like it. I mean, that's part of healing is you're gonna piss people off. That's part of healing.
don't piss people off, but they'll be okay,
Yeah.
right? And I've been out here in Washington, since grad school, but I'm headed back to Georgia.
Yes. I know you told me that. I was like, it's so long. I don't know when 8th grade was, how many years that was. It's I don't even know. Don't give us this counting over here.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'm headed back. My family has gone through a lot of turmoil recently, but I've been able to go through that as a sober person
Mhm.
worst experience of my life. And as I've told you just in your audience here on this podcast, a lot of bad shit has happened.
Yeah.
I recently lost a child. So I and my family, my husband and my son, we've been able to move through that every day, one day at a time. And that was the greatest pain.
For people that have been or that are going through a loss like that, like, how are you still able to run your business and pour into people, losing something like your baby girl? Like, how are you able to do that?
Honey, I went to therapy 3 days a week
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
start. To start 3 days a week, multiple meetings, phone calls all day long with people who were showing up and could support.
So you get to you were surrounded by love. You surrounded yourself with people, love, and support. I love that.
Yes, I have surrounded myself with community, very much so. I spent a lot of time surrounding myself with community and surrounding my family with community. That's very important to me, but I would not have been able to get through without the community.
Yeah. And for someone that didn't trust the community, you had to heal that first. That would have had to been healed, right? Somebody that didn't trust the community, to be able
Right?
to trust the community, it's like you're just showing people that the journey is always everlasting. It doesn't end.
Right. So when I walked into the 12-step rooms, I didn't trust anybody in
I
there.
believe that.
I don't know you. I don't know these people. He accepted me, flaws and all, you
Mm,
know, all apart in the meetings, crying. Actually in the meeting, I realized that, oh my God, I was molested.
mm.
30 years old, realizing that, right? First time in that room, and I sobbed. And those people did not turn around. They did
What's
not leave. They embraced, and that's where some really important healing started. And
mm,
to like myself, it started with just liking, right? They want you to
mhm.
love. I was like, I don't, right?
Good point. Like, it's always like it's always the self-love, self-love. I'm always like, do you like yourself a little bit first?
Just
Right?
a little bit.
Don't take it a little bit more than just loving yourself. Because even, to love anybody takes time.
Right.
So, no, that's a great, 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 great point. That's so powerful and just speaks to just kind of who you are now as a person, because you are that person that's very community driven, very helpful for other people. And it is you know, it still mimics little DJ, right? Because you were still about the people, but you're also about boundaries. You're also about reciprocal relationships now. So it just shows like, you can still be who you are, but, there's parts of who you are that have to change, have to heal.
Absolutely. Yes. And so, that's what I tell my folks in my therapy practice, right?
Hmm.
So I mostly work with people who are struggling from the same things I struggled with,
Yeah.
right? Early childhood trauma, compulsive behaviors, addictions, right?
Mhm.
And so I was like, this is the work that I'm supposed to be doing. When I
What's the
got
common theme with all of that? Like when you work with those people, does it all stem around some childhood issue? Does it all, what do you feel like is a most common thing?
100% childhood issues.
Yeah.
Yep. Everybody.
Everybody. That's what I say. Everybody.
Everybody. And, I do long-term work with my clients and, I value and respect my clients and I just love watching them evolve.
Yeah.
Need to like themselves and then love themselves and then be able to create boundaries and community and
Mhm.
family. I've literally have seen clients do all of that over the
Mm.
course, and it's like, wow.
Well, before we go, I like to play a game, right? Because this is a playground. So what you do on playground, you play a little game, right? And I feel like we've gotten to know the version of DJ that needed the love and needed certain things. But what about the fun loving DJ? So I'm gonna play a game, and it's like rapid fire questions. I'm gonna throw out a question, and you're gonna answer it quickly. Okay? You can't think too much. Okay? Turn your therapist's brain off. Therapists always want to think. We ain't doing that. You got to just turn it off. Okay? So we're gonna start with, what's your favorite cartoon character growing up?
Shoot, Power Rangers, but they weren't a cartoon. I don't know.
That's good. Okay, childhood show, Power Rangers. Okay, what was your favorite Ranger?
Green,
Green Ranger. Favorite game, childhood game.
Monopoly.
Favorite childhood hero.
Oh, geez. I don't know. It's
Childhood dream career.
childhood dream career. I think at one point I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Okay, so you want to be a vet. I totally remember you saying that too. Okay, last question. Favorite child's candy.
Snickers.
Snickers. I love
Yeah.
Snickers. Snickers and Reese's. Well, I am so glad. Tell us where we can find you. Like, where can people look you up, find you? Like, what are you doing now? And how can we support you?
So I still do a lot of things. Mostly I spend time doing some writing. I'm doing screenwriting, which was like that was my very first passion, writing, period.
Mhm.
It's how I really I think survived a lot. And so I spend time doing that, but trying to break into Hollywood is like
Yeah.
harder than building a therapy practice.
Mhm. And Hollywood's sick right now. We're gonna have to give Hollywood a little break.
I've had some successes in like trying to break in, but I keep doing that. You can find me on Facebook. I think you'll have all the
Yes,
links.
I'll definitely put the links in the show notes for sure.
On Instagram, I share little bits about like what's going on with me, but also thoughtful, encouraging words to people who are in addiction recovery and childhood recovery. And yeah, I'm just spending a lot of quality time with my family, staying sober one day at a time, making the moves as best I can and trying to not, predict the future. Just kind of try to
There
stay
you
in the
go.
present.
There you go. Well, one last question before you go. If you could tell your inner child anything at any age, you pick the age and what you would say, what would you tell your inner child?
Oh my goodness. Some reason I'm listening to my intuition and it's like 8 years old. Thinking of 8 years old. And I'm thinking, it's okay. And you're
Ooh,
okay.
I felt that. See, I really had to cry, but now I want to. It is okay. And I thank you so much for sharing your story. Like, and this has been more than a story for me. This has been like a reunion too. So I'm so glad that you've been one of my first guests this season. It was a no-brainer when I'm thinking about my guest list. And I am looking forward to just reconnecting when you come to Georgia.
Yes, I'll be there. I'll be reaching out for sure.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, DJ.
Thank you for joining us on another adventure through the world of big inner child energy. If today's episode resonated with you, don't forget to hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google. Or you can find us on YouTube. Share the love by leaving a review and connect with us on Instagram or Facebook at Big Inner Child Energy. Remember, your inner child holds the keys to authenticity and potential. Until next time, keep embracing your big inner child energy, and may your journey be filled with laughter, growth, and rediscovery of the joy within. This is Big Rick, the imaginary friend of all friends, signing off. Stay authentic, stay curious, and keep revealing the glow within.